I want to speak to the nation and speak at large on the recent events in the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, at which the estimates were presented for the conduct of the financial affairs of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the year 2016. I want to invite all Vincentians, brothers and sisters, to be patient with me as I establish a distinct bias in this presentation to speak largely to the youth of the nation. It has been my own discovery coming out of the 2015 campaign ended last December the 9th that a significant portion of the young people, in particular those in the colleges in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, are yet to master, pay attention to, and understand crystal clear the message and the alternative program that has been coming from the New Democratic Party to chart their own future. And I consider it paramount that we correct this so that in the months and the few years ahead of us, we in the New Democratic Party and the young people of the nation would find ourselves in much greater harmony in understanding each other. Brothers and sisters and Vincentians, I've said before that many people do not pay attention to the fact that the election process is essentially a 5-year cycle. But in that 5-year cycle, we have annual estimates and budgets. So one is every 5 years, but in that 5 years, we have 5 other cycles, namely referred to the estimates and or the budget. And there are many among us, in particular the young people, who may feel and believe that it begins and ends with the election exercise. Mm-hmm. But closer examination will show that much of what we have to navigate, understand, and appreciate really commences with estimates that are presented on an annual basis. Allow me to say that I find it, brothers and sisters, remarkably interesting that, as some callers themselves have observed, the same party of individuals and governing regime who have wasted no time in having us thrown out of the parliament physically are the same group of people who today are indicating and intimating that if they could have their own way, they would drag us back into the very parliament that would prefer not to have us. And I pause on this contribution because I can present the question, since when what we in the New Democratic Party have to say is of importance to the governing regime called the Unity Labour Party. I invite them, those who are listening to me, from the Unity Labour Party, to indicate to this public 1, 2, or 3 recommendations made by the New Democratic Party over the last 5 years, over the last 15 years, that they have incorporated for the better governance of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. By and large, if the truth be told, they simply ignore and outvote us with their mandate at the end of each estimate or budgetary exercise. And all that we have presented comes to naught. So it is questionable whether the contribution we are making there, save and except for the general education of the populace, is at the heart of a better life for Vincentians. Be that as it may, we do have a responsibility to educate and interact with our very many supporters who we believe are the majority in St. Vincent and Grenadines today. True. So that they can have a much better appreciation as to what this estate, as we call it, is all about. Because after all, it impacts the life of every man, woman, and child, every boy and girl resident in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as those in the diaspora for which we have ongoing and long-lasting relationship. Today, in the presentation of the 2016 estimates, I have deliberately chosen to make a comparison between where we were in the year 2008 as to where we are today in 2016. And I invite, as I said, many of our college students to walk this journey with me. And that's not to ignore, of course, the several other regular listeners and the more matured members of our Vincentian Society. But I want this conversation really to be one with our young people. Too often, the data and the figures that are presented by the government are intended to deceive or to confuse those who are listening and to create the impression of a great amount of money, largesse, readily available to the governing regime to do all things to all Vincentians, when on close examination, the opposite is exactly the case. Let us take the current situation in 2016, where the government proposes to spend $715 million on the recurrent side of the estimates. 715. For the rest of this discussion, I will refer to it for simplicity to $7.15. So we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. So the government wants to procure, to buy, to obtain, to secure $7.15. Let's imagine that they're going to a shop and a supermarket. That's what they want to acquire. And they are saying to the shopkeeper, Bonadies, Seeker Graves, Randy's, you name it, you have your pick, Bandrill, pipe, that I only have $5.64. Now, every school child knows that $5.64, which is what I simplified the $564 million to. I'm calling it $5.64. That $5.64 cannot pay for $7.15 worth of goods.
That's true.
That's common sense. At least on the surface, it represents common sense. But the government likes to call large numbers, large figures, because it creates the impression that they are doing something more and good and great for us. What is the reality at the end of the year or at the end of several fiscal years when the government repeatedly attempts to spend more than it has, which we refer to as a deficit budget, meaning that the dance cannot pay for the light. I don't have enough money in my pockets to procure what I want. And let me say, this is not much different to the average Vincentian. In almost every single household in St. Vincent and the Grenadines today, at the end of the month, there are very, very few Vincentians who can pay for all of the amenities in one go. By which I mean, they can pay the light bill, they can pay the water bill, they can pay the telephone bill, they can pay their transportation bill, they can pay the food bill, and they can pay the cost for any other services they have, all at one go, and still have something leave back. My experience is that most people rotate those expenses. Pay all or some of the light this month, all or some of the phone this month, all or some of the water this month, or this one, and you leave some over to the next month, and you keep rolling over month after month, hoping that things would improve, that you can clear everything, and you can breathe well. Government is pretty much like that. So what we find in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, by what magic is the government really able to pay the $7.15 with only $5.50 in its pocket? Well, that's the first thing we must unmask. The truth of the matter is that the government must compulsorily, at the end of every month, pay the public servants, the doctors, the nurses, the policemen, the teachers, the sanitation worker, the office attendants, the clerical workers. they have to receive their pay at the end of the month. So that has to come out of the $5.50 that the government has. They don't have a choice. You must pay that.
Yes.
Once the government has paid that, which in this case is about $3.50, a little bit more than that, because the wages bill for the government is $281, and the pensions bill is $64. That's $3.50, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
So $3.50 is gone out of the $5.50 that they have. And the government only therefore have, in my simplification, my simple model, $2 left to obtain $4 worth of services. What does the government do? The government has borrowed money over the years from various agencies, local and abroad. So that is another compulsory payment, monthly or annually. It means that every month the government has to pay back what is called here amortization, or on the principal payment. It has to pay back $116 million per year, and I want to speak about that. So it has to pay that back at the end of every month.
Every year.
Prorated every year, and you can divide that over the monthly amount. And it also has to pay the interest. It is like the average person at home who went to the bank, got a mortgage, either for a car or a piece of land or to build a home. The first month you don't pay the bank, they will call you. The second month, they will warn you. And the third month, they will call in the loan. They seize the van, they take it back. And if it's a hire purchase company, they come back for the furniture. And some go even further. They put your name in the paper and they name and shame you. They embarrass you. As has happened to this country recently without non-payment to the United Nations and the non-payment to the International Labour Organization.
Sure.
So the government must pay the public servants. It must pay the people who it has borrowed the money from. And it must pay the principal and the interest. When you look at the estimates, it is clear that by the time the government has paid the public servants and has paid back on principal and on the interest, no money is left from the $5.50. That's a straight and simple reality, young people, college students. So the question has to be asked and answered: how does the government provide services to run the hospital, let's say, or to provide materials in our schools for education to continue to take place, and in very many other places, under the caption that they call goods and services? Well, therein lies the rub. The government, for example, says here, this year, it will spend $72 million on goods and services. Now, that is interesting by itself. In 2016, the government is saying it will provide you with $72 million in goods and services in 2016. In 2008, the government was providing this country with $93 million of goods and services. In other words, it was providing the country with $20 million less in services to upkeep the hospital, teaching service, and various services in this country. The government is, in other words, is balancing the problem by saying one thing but giving you less and less and less. So it has gradually, over a period of time, reduced Vincentians to become accustomed to bad roads, or the absence of medication at the hospital, or benches and chairs in the secondary schools, and several other provisions that you should have, or transportation services, for example, for the police to be able to run up and down to do things in the country. That's what happens. In addition to that, as public servants retire, it frequently does not rehire. So it does not pay what it says it was going to pay in actuality on the wage bill, because it is shrinking the expenses that should be paid. So it is a form of deception that is created, that all of these monies voted for the recurrent expenditure actually happens. The reality is it does not happen. But the government gets the credit by some newspapers and some media houses of having these grandiose taking care of Vincentians, when the reality is that the devil take the hindmost. Lots of people are left outside there uncared for.
True.
So we see that it is, in a significant way, a very fraudulent or misleading piece of paper before our Vincentian public. But I said at the start of the presentation, young people, college students, that I wanted to draw your attention to one or two things that are also of concern, because the question must be asked whether the estimates, and this of course I recognize here, is a question on the integrity of some of the people who are preparing the estimates, whether in fact they're being truthful. Let's take one of them, for example, fellow Vincentians. In 2008, the government had to pay back on an annual basis $54 million to people from whom it had borrowed money, whether it was local banks, whether it was foreign banks, or agencies that had loaned the country money. It had to pay back $54 million to those people annually. In 2016, the amount of money that the government has to pay back is double that. Twice, almost. It has to pay back $116.6 million. So you see, our borrowings is going up, out of the sky. We are getting to the point in which a large proportion of the VAT that you pay every month has to go and pay back for the money that you borrowed. And less of the VAT that you pay every month, or your parents pay every month, is available to provide your old people, as we call them, your grandparents, or your parents, or your auntie, nanny, your guardian, who has a problem at the hospital or wherever, a higher quality of life, a higher quality of service. And you in turn suffer from it.
True.
So sometimes they can't meet the expense to send you to school with food and clothes and transportation and so on and so forth. So it has a real effect on you, because some of what you should be receiving is going back in interest payment. But I question this, my listeners, my brothers and sisters and Vincentians. How come when we have loan payments that amounts to $54 million, the annual payment on interest is $55 million in interest annually? And when our principal payments is $116 million, our interest payments are less. It goes down to $52 million. One will feel reasonably, unless you're telling me you're retiring some of these debt, and if you're retiring, then the amortization should go down. How come the interest payments seems to be fixed at on around 50, 52, 53, 54, $55 million, but the principal is going up? I have difficulties and will want to have that explained to me. But the fact of the matter is something does not speak to the truth of our Vincentian reality. So that is on the recurrent side, where clearly we are living beyond our means, and we are digging a deeper and deeper hole every year to stay alive in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Some people describe it as running fast to stay the same place. Or it's like looking at somebody swimming in the seawater. You see their body, you see above the water, but you look below the water and you don't see how fast their feet is moving up to keep themselves afloat. That's what is happening. That's the impression that is created upon you. But if you think that was bad, it is worse in the deception and the farcical nature that the government is presenting to you young people in our colleges. Let us look at what is called the capital side. The capital side of the budget, or the estimates, again to make a comparison to the home situation, is for those of you, especially among the middle class members, and poor people are increasingly able to do this as well, where apart from the bread and the sausage and the sardine and butter and the cheese that you have to buy to feed yourself, and the telephone, the electricity, the water that you're paying to keep things going, you have gone into a house, to a bank or to a credit union, and you have borrowed money to add on something to your house. You bought some toilet to add on a bathroom, or you fixed the roof, or you bought a piece of land. So quite apart from keeping your food supplies going, you have to go and pay back these money. That's the capital side, where you have spent money on things that will have benefits for beyond the year. If we look and then we make the comparison, Vincentians, to where we are in 2016 as against where we were in 2008, we would see again that the government has been peddling back and misleading Vincentians as to its progress. This year, we are told that we will receive $348 million on the capital side, but that we are only going to spend $197 million. So that sounds good, that we are going to receive more money in capital receipts than we actually are going to spend. And they have deliberately constructed this to be like this, so that they'll give you the impression that what they fell short of on the recurrent side, they'll take it out of the capital program and pay the recurrent expenditure. In other words, you have now, again, in the home situation, where at the end of the month now, because you have mortgage payments and so forth, you're going to sell some of the property that you have. You said, well, I borrowed this money from the bank, but my mother they give me an old house where I ain't going to use. Let me sell that old house and help pay off for the light bill and the phone bill. Or I had acquired a piece of land that my great-grand had let for me. I can't pay for the water bill this month. Let me sell off these piece of things. Now, clearly, if you have to start selling off your land, your house, or any little asset that you have to pay for your phone, water, and light bill, you're in trouble.
Plenty trouble.
And plenty trouble. Well, this is what the government is trying to suggest to us that is happening here, in a way of comparison. So it says it's going to receive 348 and it's spend 197. But compare that to 2008. You are saying to Vincentians straight into the face and to your community college students, you are going to spend $197 million to improve their lives and to create jobs and to create opportunities. And you are saying this in 2016, 1 month after December 9th election, ULP. You're saying this. But in 2008, you were spending $239 million. So why 8 years after, you are going to be spending less money to create programs and job opportunities for all people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Why are we going to be worse off? Or why are we now worse off than we were 8 years ago, if this country is truly advancing? So, for these reasons, I say that the estimate is farcical, it is questionable, and it's also inconsistent. Now, let's spend some time here, young people, college students, and let's go forward. You're there at the community college, you're in the fifth forms of our schools, you're doing mathematics, you're doing accounts, you're doing principles of business, you're doing management, you're doing economics, you're doing all the financial programs. That should give you a better understanding. What is really taking place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Who has been taken for a ride? Your government, that some of you supported and thought was the best thing after sliced bread, in order to raise monies to run this country, has embarked on an aggressive, vicious, and a destructive program, a virtual assault on the private sector in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It says it doesn't want to raise taxes. Well, we can understand the government likes to raise taxes and should think long and hard before raising taxes. So what it does, it says it wants to be more efficient at raising taxes. What is the government's notion of being more efficient? Well, it makes an assessment of what it thinks that the businesses owe them. And once it has made that assessment, it then inquires through the agencies that it has at its disposal as to what money that people have in their banks. And it goes to their bank accounts and take out that money to pay the taxes that the government has assessed them. It is called garnishing. So what do you think happens in your society, or is happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines today? Brothers and sisters, young people. when the government is garnishing the private sector to gain more monies to address the wastage that is taking place in the society. Business houses suddenly decide, well, look, if you feel you can walk into the bank in Kingston and take out my money that's hard earned, I will deposit my money in the United States of America, in Canada or the United Kingdom. That is outside of your reach. And where I had 10 people hiring, I'll cut it to 5. And where I had 20, I'll cut it to 15. So the actions of the government is bringing pressure on you on private sector job opportunities, because private sectors begin to cut back on their domestic investments and to shrink their confidence in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So there's less opportunity and less potential for you to get work when you leave your colleges, because rather than creating an environment where government will be expansionary and bringing in more money, they are being contracting the economy on the private sector. And equally, from their own public sector activities, where they were spending $239 million in 2008, they're all the way down now to $197 million in 2016. If they can spend that. And I'll show you that they can't spend it, not by way of the fact that there isn't capacity, but again because the government has been fiddling with the books and misleading Vincentians. I have brought into the studio today, for the purpose of this presentation, the capital estimates for 2016. And the first thing that would strike you as you go through the capital estimates, for those of you who don't understand it, it is fine. It shows you how you are going to pay for the things that you say you want to acquire in the different government ministries. And it is quite normal in virtually every ministry in 2008, under a section called capital expenditure revenue. That is money that the government raised, your own money, Vincentian money, let's call it that, from perhaps the sale of assets. The government can finance a number of capital program items. It is remarkable, and I will wish them to come and prove me wrong or incorrect, that they say in the capital receipts program, they will receive $12 million, $12.3 million. But I've looked through, and I've had officers assist me in going through the capital revenue program of the budget. And all I'm saying is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 for every single ministry. No ministry of the government today can finance any of its program, as we would say in local language, off the street, off of its fat, that which it has. All that the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines can do for Vincentians today is to live by what we say, other people's money, either by way of grants or by way of borrowings, local or foreign. And that brings us, Vincentians, to another very hard truth. Another very harsh reality. In 2008, college students, Vincentians, brothers and sisters, parents, guardians, this country received $116 million, 116, in grants, free money, other people's money, from the European Union and other agencies. $116 million to help Vincentians do a range of things. Today, in 2016, the money we receive just less than half of that. $53 million. So if people used to give us $116 million 8 years ago, and today they're only giving 53, what does it say to us, Vincentians? Nobody has a reason for us. It says we have to work much harder, or borrow more and more and more, or cut and cut and cut to contrive, or to live under a declining set of circumstances. That's the reality. That's the picture that you have to deal with, in contrast to the notion that somebody has $400 million in their pocket and they can do all sorts of great things for you, the Vincentian. It's just not going to happen. And our people need to understand this. This is how they're being tricked. This is how they're being deceived. This is how they're being manipulated. And this is the misrepresentation that passes year after year for an estimates debate for which people are made to feel that all these good and great things are happening to us as a people, when in reality our quality of life is deteriorating by the day. But we think that is bad. If you add up mathematically some of the data that is presented in the estimates, you would see that not even at the level of the arithmetic are we consistent. And I don't want to attack any ministry or any set of public servants, but one does the due diligence and add up. In many instances, the figures just don't balance. In fact, only this morning, while I'm preparing to come here and ready to do this national presentation, the research officer of the New Democratic Party brought to me updated financials, because anyone who has an appreciation for financial records will see very quickly that what is said one place doesn't tally in other places. And we have a number of instances in which that is so. Because for too many people, the estimates is but a spreadsheet exercise. And so we in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have to take note as we go forward and determine whether this is in fact an administration with the ability to take us out of the quagmire that we're in, and whether in fact we can look forward to a better life in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, as a representative for constituency, I find it difficult to accept some of what is being proposed or spoken about. In 2008, for example, on page 377 of that estimates, there is a figure spoken about for the redevelopment of Kingstown. We also had provisions there, brothers and sisters, for National Productivity Center for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the National Productivity Center, as I said more, was a good thought, a good idea, a good concept, a good philosophy, because basically it was speaking about the need to do more with less. It also spoke about the development of an urban development agency to help with the development of the towns across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Not just Kingstown, but Layou and Barley and Georgetown and Calico and Chateaubriand and so forth. Urban development. It also spoke about the establishment of a Workers' Institute, and we all know about that. The famed Workers' Institute that was supposed to be headed by Bones Bonnet since 2008, for which he's got 8 years of wages and for which there's no such institute up to today. In 2016, all of that has disappeared from the strategic plan of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. No more an emphasis on national productivity. No more an emphasis of improving workers' activities and training and development focus. How, therefore, are we going to improve and enhance the city of Kingstown that they, by their own words, is now saying is stink and dirty and unsightly? I listened to that up to yesterday morning. I look under the housing provision for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I see no provision in the estimates for those Green Hill residents who have been suffering, who have gone to the credit unions, who have borrowed their monies and given it to the government to finish the houses. I see no provisions being made there. Save and except when you go, you see the $5 million from Petrocarib funds for another Lives to Live program. Now, you would have thought that the $13 million we just had with the lumber, cement, galvanized would have been sufficient to take care of the Lives to Live. But there's another $5 million there. And who is coming from? Petrocarib. Petrocarib, who can't pay China for what it has received. Who can't pay its United Nations fees? Who can provide toilet paper for its people, condoms for its people? Who can fill the supermarket shelves and have Venezuelans living in abject poverty and being ashamed of themselves? It's supposed to be giving us another $5 million for our Lives to Live program. Another attempt to bamboozle Vincentians with these great external relationships. In my own constituency, through the Ministry of Education, on page 554 of local loans for this year, the St. Vincent Grammar School and the Girls' High School, there's a figure of $300,000. What's it there for? It's to conduct an assessment. An assessment of what grammar school needs and what the high school needs. But do you know, college students, some of you have left the grammar school, left the high school, gone to college. Some of you perhaps have already returned from University of the West Indies, that your alma mater have not received a cent of any of these help that have been promised for so long. In fact, in 2008, the same amount of provisions were there 8 years ago. The only thing that's changed is the language. Whereas today we speak about to conduct an assessment of the schools, it said to develop a master plan. These monies for the improvement of the high school and the grammar school, where our eagles will fly, has been a recurring decimal. Send the fools a little further. And some of you, armed with a red band, have been holding on to something that simply is not there. A mirage. It's like when you see on back street, the sun is very hot. You believe you see something rising or something looks this or that way. It's just your imagination. By great oratory that has been passing for leadership in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the last several years. So that page 568 of this year's budget speaks about a Kingston cleanup campaign. What's the budget to clean up the Kingston? $200,000. Now, I'm not going to address in the estimates discussion the fact that you want to have a cleanup program for Kingston, but outside of the parliament, you fail to recognize that MP Eustace Cummins and Leacock are the representatives that the people in Kingston and the city feel who can best direct their affairs. You don't consult us. You don't ask for our advice. You don't need our input. But you feel we can be dragged into a parliament to rubber stamp $200,000 to clean up Kingston. It's a laugh.
It has to be.
It's disgusting.
Can't even clean up Tokyo.
Can't even clean up Tokyo. We speak again in the estimates of 2008. There was a learning resource center provided for West Kingstown and Central Kingstown. It has become such a laughing matter that in 2016, the government have finally understood that this is something that's going to happen, and it has taken it out of its estimates altogether. So that anyone who's hoping that this is going to happen must understand that there's no project for any learning resource center that's going to take place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this time, by way of any budgetary provisions for the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And so, one more time, Vincentians find themselves being fooled by the government. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. If you look through people and young people of Central Kingstown, in particular Lago Height, there's no provision there to do any river crossing. I don't want to use the word bridge because bridge is to elaborate a term to assist the people to get across those rivers. And I'm not going to call it's a stream, yes, but our streams can act up when we have some good showers coming off the mountaintop.
That is true.
And while we don't elevate them to the word of rivers, they become impassable unless you could go over them. So those of you who are now crossing over in Lago Height and the Distant Cottage area on bodies of old lampposts or coconut tree or some pallets from the port will still have to continue to do it unless in the New Democratic Party, as representative, I find some creative and imaginative ways to go and do that. It's not going to happen at all. The budget for this year, page 548, under the Ministry of Baby Doc, because we haven't been paying attention to that. I mean, it's really amazing what we allowed to happen to us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. For the last 15 years, Ralph Gonzalez, and I have got this far without calling his name, has been in charge of economic planning, Ministry of Finance, and all sorts of things to deal with money matters. After 15 years, he has suddenly relinquished the economic portion of it. Does he relinquish it to those who have been there with the years before? No, he relinquishes it to Baby Doc on the new title, Economic Plan, because he has to begin to protect him as being one who, like himself, knows about money and can spend money. We have inside of that, interestingly enough, something that has been kept from us. $30,000 What's the $30,000 for? And the language gives you a smile. It's to complete the 2012 population census. Do you believe that the government has the audacity, the brazenness, to look us in the face in an estimate, to tell us the estimates which have been completed since 2010, because estimates are produced in these countries every 10 years, that we didn't complete the 2010 estimates because we had because we had this, that, and the other problem, including the fire. Governments like a lot of fire. Keep the fire burning. That's their mantra. But they're coming for $30,000 to complete a 2012 census. What government that understands the importance of a census for economic, social planning and development would still be struggling in 2016 to have hard data to know where we are and how we're supposed to address our priorities to run this country? It's not there. But hold your breath. For poverty alleviation, that Ministry of Baby Doc says poverty alleviation project is complete. You go to page 552 of the same thing, it says it is now under a new account. You know where do you find some provisions for poverty alleviation in this country? You have to go to another ministry. And how much is voted there for it? $90,000 to alleviate poverty in St. Vincent and Grenadines in the requisite ministry. Just because of passing interests, I make comment on the matter of national security, because there are implications for us. Since 2008, this government allocated or voted $5 million for the purchase of vessels for our Coast Guard services. This is dear to my heart, because as a member of the staff at the grammar school at the time, and officer in charge of the cadets, I said I was principal, I was in the vanguard of having cadets leave the grammar school to go and form the Coast Guard. In 2016, the provision for the Coast Guard to buy a new Coast Guard vessel in the Ministry of National Security is zero. And this is the year in which we are hoping to open the Argyle International Airport without proper search and rescue facilities. You think if we didn't have enough facilities for the rock gutter incident where we were out there in rubber dinghies and having our young Vincentians' life at risk, we would be better off in 2016 without an upgraded Coast Guard and the capacity for these vessels to stay at sea for proper search and rescue. Yes, we do need vessels for chase and pursue circumstances to deal with drug interdiction, but certainly we can do much better with the expanse of water that we have called the Grenadines in this regard. You'd also find on Ministry of National Airports and Seaports a provision for another $25 million. If you go to the estimate, it says that the Argyle Airport essentially is incomplete, and it needs another $25 million to fund this under loans provisions to complete Argyle International Airport. So as the New Democratic Party has said time and time again in the parliaments of St. Vincent and Grenadines, we know you will come again. And lo and behold, they have come again for more borrowings to complete the Argyle International Airport. And it is questionable whether, in fact, that airport construction will be completed this year. In fact, the provision in the estimate for $3 million for operational funds to manage the airport is also questionable, because it is hardly more than that which is now done for the E.T. Joshua Airport. And the question has to be asked, where is the Argyle International Airport going to get the funds for its recurrent expenditure to run the airport properly, since this has not been properly provisioned for in the 2016 estimates? My brothers and sisters, young people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, all Vincentians, this is indeed one of the most painful periods in the life of the New Democratic Party and of the parliamentarians that you have elected to serve in the parliament. Because at this time, as a representative in Central Kingstown and as a parliamentarian, I truly was looking forward for the beginning of the fulfillment of the promises that we as a party, we as a better team, had made for you, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am still to understand why, after the provisions that we have made, we do not see any relief in our estimates to assist our eagles to fly, or call the students to fly, by ensuring that they do not have to pay for CXC fees as the New Democratic Party had presented. We do not see in the estimates any provisions for the theaters to be built in the Arnesville area, in the new hospital facility that should be there. We in the New Democratic Party would have had in this estimates as early as this time provisions, financial provisions, to begin the preparatory work for a modern, state-of-the-art hospital in the Eastern Georgia area. We are still not disclosing, although we know where, because it's still open for speculation. And perhaps by the time we get to office, things might have got so out of hand that the acquisition of some of the private properties that are there may make the project beyond feasibility. But the fact of the matter, we had already examined how we could have inculcated or incorporated some of the existing fixtures into the National Health Plan that we're thinking about for the Eastern Georgia area. But it's not there that we could have in our estimates. I do not see any provision in the estimates for the Fenton Road, the link road between the Green Hill community and the Belair as a bypass road to take some of the traffic off of the Castle Hill area into Kingstown, and to improve the lands that should be available for people for farming. We do not see enough provisions in the estimate to open up new farm roads for the people who should need to have the assistance, whether it's in the Green Hill community. We do not see in the estimates any attempt at all for improved public-private sector partnerships that must be taking place to improve the revenue side of the recurrent budget, so that we don't have to freeze our people into this austerity approach that the government now clearly is committed to. And I said now clearly is committed to because whereas in 2015 in the budget, the government had taken the position that they would have commenced the reduction in the deficit financing from 2016, one can clearly see all the way through to 2017 and 18 in their forecast, the government clearly intends to deepen the level of deficit financing in St. Vincent and Grenadines. In other words, digging a hole to fill a hole. The young people of St. Vincent and Grenadines, as a parliamentarian, I invite you to ask us in the New Democratic Party, not ask Ralph, because he has no answers for you. Ask us, ask the Major, ask Arnim, ask Daniel, ask Patel, ask Friday, ask Nature, ask Terence. What is the way forward? We would, when we respond to the budget, at our choosing, and our venue, and our location, how we feel we can better go forward for a better St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Clearly, the answers to your misery is not in the ULP. You have been fooled. You have been misled by a farcical presentation. And we invite you to stay tuned, stay close, place your trust, place your belief in what and truly is the better team, the New Democratic Party. I thank you for your listening. God bless. Love you all.
Thank you very much, Major, and I'm certain that the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines are thankful for having you here and giving such a wonderful presentation. Now, there's something that came out there, a few things, but I'm dealing with the first one. $30,000 for the completion of the 2012 census. Well, the court ain't ruled on the election petitions yet. But I believe even before the court rule, the people should really get up and get this administration out of the way. You can't be coming for $30,000 to complete a census that should have finished since 4 years ago. This has to be a regime that really is not concerned about the people, and the people should really get up and just ask these people to go whether they like it or not. It is a disgrace to the nation to be asking for $30,000 to complete a census that should have been done Well, since before 2012, but they say some office catch fire, whether by natural causes or by somebody setting it, we don't know. But the only place that burned was the place where they stored the results of the census. I wonder why they afraid the census so much. And now you come in for $30,000 in 2016 to finish a 2012 census. This alone is real cause for people to just rise up and kick this illegal administration out of office, out of the way, so that people who know what they're doing and who have the interest of the people at heart to continue to go into government so that things could be improved. Now they come again for $25 million to complete the Argyle Airport. That should have, they came 2013 for $208 million. They came back last year.
And they said that those funds are exhausted.
But that was supposed to complete it.
Yeah.
But they came back twice last year.
Still not complete.
It ain't complete. You come back now for $25 million. Vincentians have to be real stupid people to still tolerate
all of it, but
these
at least
folks
that a particular loan for $25 million, all told the request is for over $30 million worth of assistance for Argyle, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Vincentians have to be dotish people to have these people still governing this country. Has to be a waste of time because we don't know when. And the mere fact that they didn't put in the estimates. You mentioned something about the airport that they didn't really put in the estimates.
The operational funds?
The operational funds.
Well, allocated $3 million, which is not enough.
Three, that wouldn't be enough, obvious.
No.
That, and something else you mentioned, it slipped me. I was writing, but that part slipped me. It clearly shows that they know the airport ain't opening in 2016.
I wonder if the search and rescue told me the Coast Guard source.
That is one of it, yeah, but there was something else. You don't have a proper search and rescue. You know, no airline, big airline wouldn't come there. And you can't rescue in case anything. They know this airport ain't opening in 2016. Again, they're deceiving the Vincentian public. That's how I look at these things, because if the airport is going to open, you have to have everything in place. And in my view, it's another deception for the Vincentian public. I hope that when the petitions come up in court, that the court will be ruling in the favor of the New Democratic Party, so that either the seats will be rewarded to the two candidates, or they have to do over an election. Quite obvious, not under this regime, because the same stealing will occur. But I'm hoping for the best, because it is time really St. Vincent and the Grenadines come out of this mess, and people who know what they're doing be in office so that they can really chart the course for this country. Yes, you wanted to say something, Major.
I made this point a lot, Igel, during the political campaign. The government expects to collect $482 million by way of taxes. This is way of VAT, the Customs Department,
yes,
personal income tax, and other forms of taxes. Let's call it a half $1 billion in taxes. But if you notice, that is really to pay what? $350 million in salaries and wages to public servants alone. The public servants are under 10,000 people, just over 5,000 people work in the public service in the country. So take yourself as a taxpayer. All your taxes goes basically is to pay the public servant.
True.
That's basically it. Some 10,000 public servants, if we stretch it. The voting population in the election was 90,000, 89,000. I rounded it off to 90,000.
Right.
Let's say that the government, by way of other agencies, all the other statutory corporations employ another 10,000 people. Let's make it. Government employs 20,000 people. Let's take a stretch that 20,000 people are employed because of government. And let's take and say that the private sector matches that. And they too employ 20,000. So 40,000 people have guaranteed work in St. Vincent and Greenwich, which I don't think is the case.
True.
At the end of the month. Just going by the voters list alone, which says that there's 89 to 90,000 people working. 50,000 people still are not taken care of.
That is true.
You may say some of the old and the retired. The question, in other words, out of that, you can say more than half, or 50% of the country who want to work still are unable to work.
That is true.
So the question that ought to be presented for the government to answer, that we should ask of them, is really what, and we really would only get this in the budget because the estimates don't deal with the revenue stream of the discussion, is what really are we contemplating to improve the lot and lives of the average Vincentian who wants to work, who wants a job, who wants to help him or herself, and not to be constantly dependent on what we call a handout and a mendicant, a begging mentality, but to go the road of the New Democratic Party, of a hands up, not handout. Let us pull you up.
True.
Let us put you close to the productive sector. Let us make lands available for the landless as we did in Lauders and in Greg's and in North Leeward and other places.
Orange Hill.
And Orange Hill in previous times.
Yeah.
Let us make greater expanse of our maritime opportunities. Let us take greater thing of ICT or computer areas. Let us get more into what we call public-private sector partnerships. And let us do more to encourage, not to run and chase firms, business and enterprise, so that the revenue stream of the government can be, because unless that moves and goes up from $500 million to become from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8,
can't employ
we can't employ. And we're not going to have more goods and services at the hospital, at the schools. More medication, a clean hospital, clean floors, clean linen, fresh linen, new linen, proper windows, or as we say, a modern state-of-the-art hospital. God forbid the contract here from the mosquitoes to come to St. Vincent Green. What we're going to do? Where are you going to put them? Let's pray God that it doesn't come across the shores. True. And we can't be complacent about it, because those of us who lived through the last chikungunya and saw how it crippled this nation, what it did to the NIS, how productivity went down, the number of people were home and sick leave of one form or another. And some people took all a year and a half after.
Yeah,
the people will tell you today they're still suffering from chikungunya.
That is true, because it
so
can
we
last.
Take care of that? Yeah?
Can last for that
a very long time.
Yeah.
You know, it's very debilitating.
Definitely.
So I'm saying, on the basis of this estimate, Vincentians are left askance. They do not know where they're going. There's no hope. It's a lot of despair. So it is not that in the New Democratic Party that we can concentrate on more than one thing. Yes, we have the petitions before the court. Yes, we're in protest activity. Yes, we are supporting those people on the front line. But as parliamentarians, we have a responsibility to keep hope alive.
True.
And to provide opportunities to the people who have put us into office. And we have to therefore to be very creative, very innovative, and very bold, and very assertive, and very forward-thinking. And what is presented here, along with the people who are presenting it, because you can't separate the paucity of what is presented from the poverty of mind of those who are presenting it.
True.
Right? It's a backwardness of ideas. Or in some cases, the absence of ideas. There's nothing there that is creative. Nothing there that represents that this is a St. Vincent and Grenadines, that to get ourselves out of where we are, we have to become an export-led and export-driven economy. That the emphasis has to be on productivity and production. Because for all that is talking about investment, there's no returns that is coming here to improve the job-creating potential for St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Any wonder why they couldn't pass 3 o'clock with the debate?
But that's an interesting dynamic itself.
Yeah.
Because had we gone to the parliament, this is typically how they have operated for years, and they have done it on more than one occasion. The Prime Minister speaks, and then he plays musical chairs. If somebody doesn't jump up fast, and we don't line up all ourselves to begin to speak, he wraps up the debate. So you have had several debates by the ULP in which not even the person who seconds the motion, normally the deputy prime ministers, contributes to the debate. It is only in recent times when you had the new sets of parliamentarians, originally those who were senators, some of them who have now come to be ministers of government, that you begin to get contributions, save except for the one or two constant Minister Francis.
Yeah.
But a large percentage of them, and some of them acknowledge and admit, they do not understand the estimates.
Shouldn't be there.
Even the deputy prime minister says that. I don't understand the estimates. So if you want to run a country and you don't understand the data and the information that's in front, how are you going to take a country forward?
Shouldn't be there at all.
Should not be there. And you're holding on as a college student to this as a way forward. Simiraj.
And we're going to take the break now, and Major, you come back. When we come
We'll
back,
take some
you know,
calls.
the people will want to interact with you. So
I'll hang on.
we take some calls after the break.
Thanks.